Good morning, club members. Today I'm very excited, and I'm actually excited for a couple of reasons. Number one, this video you're watching has more content than what's typical, and so it's a little longer, but you should be able to glean some greater insight from it, and so I'm excited about that. But I'm also excited to be joined by Dell Wood, the head golf professional at Summit Rock. Many of you know him, and if you do, then you know he's not just a swing coach. He's someone who talks endlessly about the inner workings of how to get the most out of your own golf swing, out of your own ability, how to play the game and how to practice so that you can be the best you can be given the amount of time you have to practice. And it's actually in that endeavor that we join forces today, because today's video is going to be a simulation. Dell's going to play the part of the student going through one session of the Supervised practice program, which starts tomorrow. So we're basically going to detail what you can expect in that. And to hit the high points on this, and Dell and I will get started in just a moment, but to hit the high points on this, I want you to imagine something for a moment. I'm going to take us out of golf, but when we return to golf, I think you'll have a better idea, because I think I can illustrate this point well. I want you to imagine for a moment two 8th grade girls. Doesn't matter, girls or boys. Two 8th grade girls, each introduced to basketball today, and both crazy about the game and deciding that, you know what, I may have started late, but by the time freshman tryouts come around, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to practice myself into good form. The first girl's got all the support of her parents. She's got a basketball and shoes and a court right down the road from her house, and she spends all her free time, that entire summer, practicing and shooting and moving and shooting and doing things that she sort of watches on TV and on YouTube videos and tries to gain some insight by watching other people and plays pickup games whenever she can. But when she really improves her shots, she's shooting 95% of the time she's practicing, she's just shooting. The other girl has parents who send her off to basketball camp. She spends 6 weeks of her summer out there drilling and drilling and drilling and hardening her defensive muscles and hardening her scoring muscles and learning what to do and when to do it and learning to deal with pressure and being drilled and drilled and drilled and failing and failing and failing until she finally gets it right time after time after time, still shooting all she can. Which of these two girls, both equally ambitious, both with the same amount of desire, is going to make the team? I think the answer is obvious. And I think what's also obvious, at least it is to me, that most people practice their golf like that first girl. In other words, all they're doing is practicing shooting and shooting and shooting. They never put pressure on themselves. They never practice in a way that makes them focus, because if you want to deal well with pressure, you have to put pressure on yourself routinely, not just when you're on the golf course, but every single time you practice. And you have to practice in a way that brings about the same the mental challenges as actually playing the game. That's what drills do. And Dell is a real hardliner on drills, and so am I. And so without further ado, we're going to get into what you should expect in the Supervised practice program. Let's get started. All right, as promised, I have Dell Wood here with me. Dell, welcome.
Thank you, Bobby.
So glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
You know, he and I have had a great many discussions, and Dell, I want to ask you, we talked about the difference between warming up and practicing and how some people have sort of a grayish line in between the two. Can you expound on that a little bit?
You know, I think when you go out to play, you want to go out and warm up, loosen up your muscles, get used to feeling a ball, looking kind of what your trajectory is that day, and then go out and play. But if you're going to come out and practice, you're going to have a purpose. You need to have certain goals you're going to try to accomplish during that time that you're practicing. And I think it's very important that you concentrate on just that one or two goals for each practice session.
You know, you've told me before that you really believe in drills and drills and drills, because for that very reason, to accomplish a goal and get on out of there.
I think drills are probably the easiest way to get somebody to feel something new. If they just keep swinging the old way, they're going to have the same results. Sometimes we put them in a drill which maybe puts their weight on their left side or creates more rotation. It's something they couldn't feel any other way.
I agree with you, and that's why we have a little drill here. This is the first portion. This represents the first thing that we're going to be doing in our Supervised practice program sessions. This represents the first 15 minutes. This is called single focus. And what I've done here is I've asked Dell to set up a 3-foot, but how did you arrive at 3 feet here?
Well, my putter's 35 inches long, so I added an inch to that.
Perfect, and that's how you get 3 feet. And if you can do that, you can probably find 4 feet. And so this particular drill has some rules with it. He's not just going to try and see how many he can make. Rather, this one involves him making 10 straight and not leaving here until he does. That's 10 consecutive putts. And they only count if, when that ball rattles in the back of the cup, you are still in your finish position. Okay. If you raise up and happen to make it, I'd rather you miss it if you look up, because then you're just practicing looking up and receiving some sort of encouragement to continue to do that. So if you're ready, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
10 in a row, here we go. Good. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to continue to talk while you do this.
You got it.
What he's doing here, as you can see, is he's not just practicing the 3-footer. He's given himself a reason to care. And so he's not just practicing putting, he's practicing focusing. Number 9. Very good. Very little doubt. You know, the ease of that is only apparent. I probably had one person in the last, everybody will eventually get it, but it's rare that you'll get it the first time. But the whole point of that is to focus. And I've got to ask you, Dell, I noticed that, I mean, we're not playing in the Masters here. Why did you take your time and line each one of those up?
Well, you know, you have to make each putt important to you. It's going to be important out on the golf course. You know, I don't always practice like that, you know, but if it counts and I'm really going to try to achieve a goal, I'm going to take my time and make sure I give it my best effort. I
think that's a great philosophy and a great demonstration of how these goals should be taken seriously so that you can get something from this and take it to the golf course.
Well, the pressure on those last 3 were just exactly like if I was out there playing in a game with one of the members, and I really wanted to make that putt. I put that much effort into it.
I love it. I tell you what, if you're ready, that was single focus. The second portion of each one of our clinics is multi-focus. If you're ready, let's get started.
I'm ready.
All right. Okay, so here we are again. Now this part is called multi-focus. Well, where did single focus get its name? Well, he was working on one putt from one distance and doing it over and over again. When it comes to multi-focus, we're going to actually add a chipper. We're going to do a chip and a putt because that's the way we practice it out there on the golf course. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
And I want to remind our viewers what I'm carrying this thing around for. This is his score sheet, and this is what you've got to carry around during all of the practice. Why? So you can write down how well you did, give you something to shoot against next time. It's very vital because if you can measure it, then you can manage it, but only if you record it. That's the only way to do it. And so if you're ready, we're going to play a game of 8-ball. And 8-ball involves you hitting one chip to that hole, and then another to that, there, so that ideally you have 4 balls in the vicinity of that hole, and then 4 near that one, and then your score will be how many of those you can one putt in, so you can find out how much room for improvement you have in the basic chip and putt. Are you ready, sir?
I'm ready, Bobby.
All right, here we go. Did you just make that?
I did.
Excellent. And that's 6 for 8. Hey, that's 6 for 8.
Pretty good for me.
75% getting up and down, and that was out of the rough, not off the fringe, so that's pretty darn good. So again, what would you say the value? Some people chip, and then as a separate affair, they putt. What do you suppose the value is of actually chipping and putting?
Well, it simulates what you're going to do on the golf course because it breaks that rhythm. If I just sit there and hit chip, 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 it's a little bit different. If I have to go putt, it's going to change my focus onto what I'm going to do. So I have to be ready to do it perfect the first time.
I'm with you on that. You know, oftentimes people trick themselves into thinking that better than actual progress is being made because they chip at one hole and they just dial in one swing. And in reality, that's not what actual golf is like.
I agree with that. I do think that there's a time when you sit over there and you're just going to hit chips, but you're working on your technique. You're not working on applying that technique to the golf course.
That's the difference, and that's a very important point. And so there's actually 2 kinds of practice. There's technique practice, and then there's random practice, and that is put it into play.
Which is just like on the golf course.
Excellent. If you're ready, let's go into skill training.
You got it.
All right. Okay, so it's time now for the skills training. That's part 3 in any one of our supervised practice program clinics. This is divot training. And as you can see here, we've got a white line that we've painted. Now, if you do this, we'd rather not use paint. You might use a chalk line or something like that. I'll show you other ways of doing it. You can put 2 T's and just draw a visual straight line. But the idea here is every student of golf knows that the divot happens when?
After the ball.
After the golf ball, and this drill will not lie to you. Now, Dell and I were talking about coming up here how, you know, this should be in everyone's back pocket in terms of what they practice, because as you said, you spend a lot of time teaching people to hit down on the ball.
I do. They tend to make the divot behind the ball, and they don't understand why that's not effective for their ball striking.
Well, good. Well, I'm looking forward to you performing this drill, but also providing an explanation for what someone, if they are deficient in this area, might do to help it.
You got it.
All right, let's see it. We're going to see how many of these 10, and that's what will be written in your scorebook, of these 10 divots can be after the line. 9, and 10. And so as we examine that, and we just sort of look at the whole line of things, and this will reveal to us the honest truth. And that is how many, once you count them for me, Dale, how many of those are you satisfied with?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
6, and I tell you what, you get pretty good. There's just 2 you didn't actually take a divot, but I can see that you ruffled the feathers left of it.
A little bit.
And so that would be...
A couple of them started a little early.
Let me ask you this. If someone came to you and they just simply couldn't do this, how would you teach someone to take a divot after the golf ball?
Well, you know, we would establish by putting 2 tees there and where their divot is. And the more their divot is behind the golf ball, the more I'm going to think they're back on their back foot or they're releasing early back here. And so we're just going to simply work on staying on top of the ball, making a turn, and then really shifting into their left side this way and really finishing on their left side so the descending blow is up here in front and not back here back. One of the drills I like to do is tee the ball up a little bit with an iron and have them hit the iron. And when we can start to move that tee every time, then we're starting to get that descending blow.
Excellent. Well, that was good work there, I've got to tell you. That was skills training. Now we're going to go into the final segment, which is swing health. Shall we?
You bet. Thanks, Bobby.
All right. Okay, Dale, it's time for phase 4, which is golf swing health. Now, every single session is different. There are many ways to work on your golf swing health in ways that will help every single level of golfer. And I've always said, you know, you can play with a weaker grip, or you can play with a stronger grip, or a slightly open stance, or a slightly closed stance, and still turn in some fine numbers. But if you are wildly off plane, you can never hit the ball with any consistency or with any power.
I agree with that. I think reasonable, you have to be reasonable. You can't be way out or way in. Either one of them's not good, but something reasonable down the line. Some days I come out and play and my plane feels steep. I'm just going to play with it being steep that day instead of trying to fix it. Some days it feels shallow, feels great, and I'm not even going to worry about it. But I don't think it's the same every day, but it just has to be within a reason.
Well, I got to give you the amen on that. So the wonderful means of practicing this is go ahead and put your club behind that golf ball, if you will, Dell. And notice what I've done. I've taken a shaft plane, a shaft, and stuck it in the ground at what should approximate this a parallel line to his club. That's how you know you're on line. And so his job is to hit that ball, all the while trying to make sure that his club returns to a position that's parallel to this shaft that he can see in his peripheral view. And I'm going to have you hit 5 in that way for me. Just
okay.
Going through there.
You got it.
Four. That's solid. Excellent. Now, as you know, you said that sometimes you're a little bit upright, and that's okay, within limits. Sometimes you're a little flat. And so the way to sort of judge that flat part is, if you don't mind, Dale, I'll have you set up as if there's a golf ball here again. And I'm going to set this club parallel, because swinging so that this club does not disturb your shot will be evidence that you are not too flat either. So he is going to try to make sure that he can hit, again, the same thing. He's trying to match that shaft angle with each and every swing. Let's do 5 of those if you would.
You got it.
And the chances are, if cool, cool, excellent. All right, so then what would be next? And if you come over the top, this is the drill for you, because if you can learn to swing within these 2 sticks, that ball that starts off left and then curves right will be a thing of the past in no time at all, if you can successfully swing between these clubs. All right, let's see what we got. Good. 3. Excellent. And so the big question someone might have is, what would be the next thing in the natural progression? Well, it would be swinging without the shafts, with the idea of trying to conjure up that same image you had, the necessity to stay between the ditches on the way down. And now I've got to ask you, Dale, before we close here, those who want to, members who want to get golf lessons from you, how do they reach you?
Sure, they can call me at Summit Rock anytime, 830-598-1500, and we'd love to set it up for you. My lessons are usually an hour long, and you know, my idea is to just work with you, take what you have and try to improve it, make you see some results.
Excellent. Well, I know you do a good job of it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. If you plan on attending this supervised practice program, then let me know today. It starts tomorrow. We'll be doing it 4 days a week. I'll give you details on it, and I look forward to seeing all of you soon. Thank you, Dale.
Thank you, Bobby.